Greetings all, this is Claudia Manchanda, radical herbalist with a really croaky voice, and the herb we're going to talk about today is a lungwort or Pulmonaria officinalis, and Pulmonaria refers to lungs, like pulmonary, and officinalis refers to plants that are either used as medicine or used in cooking, like calendula officinalis or boragio officinalis. This is Pulmonaria officinalis, and I think plants that were named officially were around the period of when colonisation and binomial nomenclature, when plants were given two names. Some plants were considered official and other club plants were not given this designation. So the plant we have today is in the borage family. There's another plant over there called green alkanet that's also in the borage family, and what makes it very distinctive is these spotty leaves that in the doctrine of signatures mimic or emulate diseased lungs, and this is indeed a remedy of the lungs. And the family it's in, the borage family, also is comfreys in that family, forget-me-nots are in that family, viper's bug gloss is in that family, but a feature that's in a lot of this borage family are chemicals called pyrrolizidine alkaloids. But what's interesting about this plant is it doesn't have very high pyrrolizidine alkaloids, and pyrrolizidine alkaloids that are present in borage and comfrey have now stopped being used as internal medicine. This plant can be used internally, but the parts that are used are the actual aerial parts of the plant, and the plant is very fluffy. I don't know if we can go in close, but it's got chemicals called mucilage, which is very soft and fluffy, and it's very soothing to mucous membranes of the body. It's soothing to the gut, it's soothing to the lungs, and it's soothing to the urinary tract. It's also got chemicals in it called tannins that basically can line inflamed mucous membranes. And it's also got chemicals in it that are mildly antimicrobial. Let's have a look at the flowers. What's really interesting about the flowers is that they change colours from pinks to blues to mauves. And if you look here, it's a really distinguishing feature of lungwort. And what's interesting is that as the flowers mature, they change from pinks to blues, and it's to do with their pH. It's a bit like when you dip red cabbage in vinegar, and it goes from a bluey purple to a red colour. So I actually forgot to bring some vinegar today. I was going to bring some vinegar and put one of these petals in vinegar and watch it turn a light pink colour. So traditionally this remedy is used for whooping cough, where it helps to disperse a claggy, thick mucus and the dry cough of whooping cough. It was also used in the plague, and used in remedies of the plague, and it's also quite an interesting remedy that's been used in COVID preparations, and it actually has chemicals in it that inhibit the COVID SARS virus. If you could pause there for a sec. So when we're actually looking at the plant for ID, you can see that the leaves are like, there's a leaf on this side but there's no leaf on this side, so it's coming round alternately. Let's just have a look closer at the dots. They're actually really beautiful designs on this one. Look at it. It's like a pattern. It's very, very beautiful. So other names for this plant include Our Lady's milk drops, named after the drops on the leaves. Also it's called Mary's tears. It's a plant that's been a food source in this country in medieval times, and it's called an orexigenic plant, so it's actually meant to stimulate appetite in people who are feeling very kind of depleted and don't have an appetite. It's got these demulsion, mucilaginous properties. That means it's soft and nourishing. So that's really good for conditions like TB, asthma, laryngitis, which it sounds like I could do with right now. And it's also useful for maintaining people with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's also a remedy that's been used for kidney stones, and it's got an action that's called anti-lithiasis, which means that it helps break down the formation of stones in the body. It's very mineral rich. It's very useful for helping with digestion and for people with duodenal ulcers. It also is used internally and externally for hemorrhoids. And externally, its soft emulsion properties make it really good for external wounds and cuts. And it's used in hydrogels for eczema. What's really interesting is that the ethanolic chemicals of the plant contain chemicals called anti-cholinesterase chemicals and anti-tyrinase chemicals that actually prevent neurodegeneration. So this plant actually may be useful for being a tonic for the nervous system to prevent neurological decline. In Chinese medicine, they often talk about how plants have affinities for meridians and areas of the body, and it's called the tropism, its affinity. And the affinity of this plant is to the lungs, the stomach, parts of the gastrointestinal tract, the urinary tract, and the kidneys. Chemicals in this plant include saponins, which are very soapy-like chemicals, and the aqueous teas of this contain saponins that help break down and thin out thick mucus secretions, like when people have a dry hacking cough. It also contains tannic acids, which are anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. It contains camphoryls, caffeic acid derivatives, which are anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. And they are particularly present in the alcoholic tincture extracts. It has a chemical that's also present in borage and in comfrey, and that's allantoin. Allantoin's a chemical that our bodies actually make and present in our urine, and it's probably one of the chemicals that makes urine therapy really effective in human bodies. And on the skin, allantoin's a moisturizer. It exfoliates excess dry highly keratinized skin, and it promotes wound healing. So it's an excellent plant for wound healing, and it could be used when comfrey wouldn't be used because of the pyrrolizidine alkaloids. It also contains these unsaturated aliphatic chemicals that come up in alcohol and fat, that are very, very useful for healing wounds. When I'm thinking about the herbal astrology of this plant, I couldn't really find much information about it. In fact, I couldn't even find much information about the plant at all. Culpeper talks about lungwort, but the lungwort that Culpeper talks about isn't this plant, and it's actually a lichen moss. So if you're actually looking at Culpeper's Herbalist and you see lungwort, it's a completely different plant called Lobaria that isn't related to this plant at all. But Culpeper talks about bugloss and borage that are in this family as herbs under Jupiter, under the dominion of Jupiter in the sign of Leo. And I'm not quite sure if this plant is entirely like that, because it's at its prime at different times of the year. I've seen it described as a plant under the moon and as a plant under Mercury. But I think the key thing to remember is that this plant has affinities particularly with the lungs. It often grows in very damp and shaded areas, and it likes to have a soil that's really free from pollution. Thank you. Bye.